On a January night in Bangor, a brand new business jet lifted off from runway 33, banked sharply right, and came down inverted. 6 people died. The aircraft had been de-iced. The crew was experienced. The runway was clear. The NTSB preliminary report says the entire accident comes down to a number of minutes. The crew sat on the ramp after the de-ice truck pulled away. This is the Bombardier Challenger 650 crash at Bangor International Airport on the 25th of January, 2026. 6 people, 2 pilots and 4 passengers, were killed when the aircraft struck the ground seconds after rotation and burned. The NTSB preliminary report, docket CEN 26 FA098, is out. The full factual report is still pending. What we have is a precise second-by-second timeline of the de-icing process and the takeoff roll. And it raises a direct and uncomfortable question about how experienced crews calculate holdover time on a cold winter night. The aircraft was a Bombardier Challenger 650, a large cabin, long-range business jet, registration November 10KJ Juliet, built in 2020 and operated by Arnold and Itkin LLP, a Houston personal injury law firm, under a single aircraft LLC. This was Part 91 operation, a private flight, not certificated air charter. The trip was routing Houston Hobby through Bangor for a fuel stop, then continuing across the Atlantic to Chalon-Vatry in northern France, a beyond luxury travel event. 4 passengers were aboard: Tara Arnold, attorney and co-founder of Beyond; Nick Mastroscusa, a private chef; Shelby Kuyawa, a sommelier; and Shauna Collins, an event planner. The flight's operator and co-founder, Kurt Arnold, was not on board. Bangor International sits in central Maine. On the night of the 25th, conditions were severe. Temperature -16 Celsius, 3/4-mile visibility in light snow, ceiling around 1,200 feet. The aircraft landed just after 6 in the evening local time, took on fuel, and moved toward the de-ice pad. Now let's walk through exactly what happened next. At 19:13, the crew begins taxiing toward the de-ice pad. They stop there 4 minutes later, shut down engines, and the truck moves in. Type 1, the heated orange fluid that strips existing contamination, is applied for about 8 minutes. Then Type 4, the viscous green anti-ice fluid, goes on at 19:27 and 43 and finishes at 19:30 and 55. And then the aircraft sits. 4 minutes and 51 seconds pass before the crew taxis off the pad at 19:35 and 46. During the taxi to runway 33, the cockpit voice recorder captures the crew discussing holdover times. The captain comments that 14 to 18 minutes is standard, and that anything over 30 minutes would send them back to de-ice. The co-pilot agrees. What they don't hear is what is happening on the other radio frequencies. Earlier that evening, an Allegiant Air flight had also been de-iced. After the truck pulled away, that crew did a tactile check of their wings and found contamination. The anti-ice fluid was not holding. They called Tower and said, quote, "Our de-ice fluid has failed and the visibility is not good enough. We're going back to the gate." About 10 minutes before November 10KJ Juliet would roll, a Breeze Airways pilot transmitted on ground frequency, quote, "My guys are trying to make us go, but I keep telling them this is stupid." 2 professional crews on the same airport on the same night independently called the conditions un-takeoffable. The November 10KJ Juliet crew was on a different frequency coordinating with the de-ice truck. They did not hear either warning. They reach the runway threshold, hold short briefly, and at 19:43 and 57, the takeoff roll begins. 8 seconds later, the co-pilot calls V1, but the flight data recorder shows the aircraft is still 9 knots slow. 2 seconds after rotation, both stick shakers fire simultaneously. The aircraft is at 11 feet, angle of attack climbing through 20 degrees. The right wing is already losing lift. From wheels up to the last flight data recorder recording, 6 seconds. Bank reaching 77 degrees right, full opposite aileron, both ailerons physically pinned to their stops. And it makes no difference. The contaminated right wing has so little remaining lift that maximum control input cannot arrest the roll. The aircraft strikes the ground inverted, 5,800 feet from the threshold. Here is what the investigators are now spending the most time on, the captain's 14 to 18-minute personal rule, because the published holdover time for those exact conditions that night was 9 minutes. Holdover time, HOT, is the maximum time between the end of anti-ice fluid application and wheels off. It is not a safety margin, it is the outer limit. The FAI publishes holdover time guidelines every winter season. For Type 4 fluid, Dow Wukar Flight Guard AD49, the product used that night at an outside air temperature between -14 and -18 Celsius in moderate snowfall, the published maximum is 9 minutes from the start of anti-ice application, not from the end, from the start. Type IV application began at 1927 and 43. The holdover clock expired at 1936 and 43. The crew departed the de-ice pad at 1935 and 46, still inside the window. The takeoff roll did not begin until 1943 and 57, 7 minutes and 14 seconds after the HOT had already expired. Total elapsed time from the start of anti-ice to wheels up, 16 minutes and 41 seconds, nearly double the published limit. Under standard winter operations, at least one pilot computes the HOT expiry time during the de-ice process, and that time is treated as a hard departure deadline, not a rough guideline. If the crew misses that window, procedure is straightforward. Return to the de-ice pad. We've looked at what the procedure required. Now let's look at why that calculation appears to have gone wrong, and what the investigation will try to determine. The cockpit voice recorder is the most important piece of evidence here. The crew did not forget to discuss holdover time. They discussed it explicitly during the taxi and applied a personal rule of 14 to 18 minutes that was simply wrong for a -16 Celsius night in falling snow. Investigators will work through several open questions. What caused the nearly 5-minute dwell on the de-ice pad after fluid application finished? Was it an ATC delay, a passenger issue, a checklist step? Whether the crew performed a formal HOT calculation at any point, or relied entirely on the personal rule, and whether the cold, soaked wing, chilled deep by hours of cruise from Houston to Maine, accelerated contamination buildup beyond what the fluid tables assumed. The safety board will also examine whether Part 91 business aviation operations have adequate crew training standards for winter de-icing decisions, where no dispatcher and no operations center exist to flag a missed window. Aviation gets safer because accidents like this one get pulled apart. The Bangor lesson is not published yet. When it is, it will be in a recurrent simulator somewhere. Investigators are currently examining the wreckage, the full cockpit voice recorder transcript, flight data recorder data, de-icing records, and crew training histories. There is no probable cause determination yet, and the full factual report from the NTSB is still months away. We will cover it when it publishes. If you want to keep watching aviation stories the other channels don't cover, subscribe.